Doug, did you know that today is Aging Awareness Day?
I do now that I see on camera.
Some people will tell you to play it safe, but we're here to tell you to go all out. Welcome to the All Out Blitz. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and I am joined by my cumbersome chum, Doug Orth. Doug, I just wanted to check in and make sure that you weren't placed on IR this week, correct?
Well, I did just kick a couch about 20 minutes before the show started, so and that wasn't due to anger. That was just pure being cumbersome.
Well, I don't know about you, Doug, but these first 2 weeks of the season have taken quite a toll on me and my teams. I mean, I want to say I'm not really sure what to do. I know what to do, right? Play patient, play the waiver wire. It's a long season, but what are you doing?
Well, I'm not panicking, but you're right. You're right. There's only so many avenues to go to approach to improve your team, or at least remain afloat while this rash of injuries is happening. But look, we're still 2 weeks in. The opinions that you had 2 and 3 weeks ago when you were drafting these teams, they may be starting to change. Take the Saints, for example. We'll talk about the Saints. We can change our expectations because they're doing something that the NFL hasn't seen in a while. But you're still – I'd like to look at it like this. So through the first 4 weeks, my opinion can change about 25%. And then when we get through four weeks, I'm still – I won't say I'm holding on to my draft grades or my preconceptions going in through 4 weeks, but 4 weeks is enough time for the people that are the players that are going to stand out. The ones that you had, maybe mid-round players that you had that have just done absolutely nothing, they can go. The late-round picks, they should have been gone a long time ago. Those type of things. But I'm always going to be more of the patience. I'd rather be a little bit 1 week too late on dropping a guy than 1 week too early. So, and as far as the thing you have to remember with these teams, with all these injuries so far, is that your team is not the only one going through this. There's a good chance that 6 or 7 others have their IRs already filled or are getting there.
Or discovering your league doesn't have an IR. Yikes. Yikes. That is not a fun thing to discover, as I did. Well, Doug, tonight on the show, Doug is going to share some insights that he has gained from watching the film and diving into the analytics from week 2. But before he does, let's get a word from our sponsors. And start your season off right with IDP Plus. Visit idpplus.com, and for a limited time, get 20% off any subscription with the promo code PROPS. Get access to our tools, data, and IDP articles, and don't miss out on our subscriber Discord, where your subscription gets you access to our entire suite of tools. Go to IDP Plus and start your march towards fantasy greatness today. Do you have a busy life? Do you eat a lot of fast food? Are you getting tired, Doug, and looking for a change of pace with your meals? Well, have I got a deal for you? Go to idpplus.com/HelloFresh and get your first delivery for free. Pick from an exciting range of recipes and get fresh ingredients delivered directly to you. Often a week's worth of meals costs less than a single trip to your grocery store. And there are no wasted ingredients. Just visit idpplus.com/HelloFresh and get a free box today.
JJ,
Yeah.
why are you taking? Why is the first thing, we're less than 10 minutes into the show and you're talking about food when you know I haven't eaten in at least 5 hours? Let's go. I mean,
well, first of all, you have the sleeping schedule of a prepubescent, middle school kid. You're up until 3 a.m, 6 a.m, then you sleep until noon. I don't know when your meals are, buddy.
Wow. Thank you
Name
for telling.
one thing I said that was incorrect. Exactly.
Not all the time. Sometimes I don't sleep that much. So, but I got you.
There is nothing about you that surprises me, Doug. But one of the biggest surprises of this offseason or this season has been the New Orleans Saints. Now, through 2 games, they have scored 11 touchdowns, which is 3 more than the next nearest team, the Bills and the Cardinals, who have 8 each. And despite me recommending Kamara as someone who would outperform his ADP, oh yeah, I remember that. I was right about one thing. I wasn't expecting this, Doug. Doug, why are the Saints marching?
I'm glad you asked. There are several, if not many, reasons why New Orleans is averaging 45.5 points through 2 games. JJ, turns out that using motion and play action can make a difference for an offense, especially one that has perimeter speed and offensive line questions. To say that the Saints have seen the light under new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak might be an understatement. Now, I don't want to bore you with too much stuff. I'll keep this short. There was a tweet. I'm sorry. This was 2 different tweets, actually. Saints play action rate during the 2023 season, 14.4%, lowest in the league. Their play action rate this year through 2 games, 52.3. So that's 3.5 times more. That's first in the league. Motion at the snap during the 23 season, 14%. That was 26th. Motion at the snap during the 2024 season, 41%. Again, we're talking almost 3 times as much. That's 5th in the league. Okay, so you're asked, why does this matter? Any kind of motion, especially during the snap, can create communication and alignment issues for the defense, which is particularly advantageous for an offense with the pair of speed merchants in Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Play action passing may create only a slight hesitation by the defense, but a small delay in the pass rush or hesitation by a linebacker dropping into coverage is often the difference between a negative passing play and a chunk gain in the league. Mm-hmm. So I'll just reference the article here. The article dropped earlier this afternoon. Please check the article for some information on play action passing and the effectiveness on that. I want to move forward a little bit in there and say New Orleans is also, to your point about Kamara, New Orleans is having as much success running the ball, which is 4.8 yards per carry through 2 games as it has in any year since 2011. Okay, now I have another chart on the article, but the point of it is the Saints have been productive virtually everywhere. But it's easy to see they want to run behind Fuaga, left tackle Fuaga, and center Eric McCoy. Running left or up the middle also works out nicely for Derek Carr, since it is much more convenient for a right-handed quarterback to fake left instead of to throw right than it is for him to fake right, turn around, and take the extra time to square his body. Now, this is what I'm about to say here is about good news, bad news. It usually takes defense coordinators about 4 games. Usually it takes when the league is hit with a either new wrinkle, new innovation. It takes about 4 weeks, seemingly, for defense coordinators if they're going to catch on. They're going to catch on probably when they do some self scouting and whatnot after about 4 weeks. So I would expect that we are going to see a couple more weeks at least of high flying offense in New Orleans before the league slows Clint Kubiak's kids down a bit.
Well, I'm excited to see what they can keep doing. You know I always bring this back to the Jets because this is a Jets podcast.
It is.
It is when I'm on the show. But I cannot get over the fact that the Jets offense doesn't run motion with the wide receivers. Now, I did see one play last week where Garrett Wilson was on a short motion on the same side. But for the most part, the only person who goes in motion is the tight ends. And it's so predictable. It is driving me nuts. I may have been asked by my wife not to watch any more Jets games because I keep screaming at the screen. Why aren't you doing anything with motion? I mean, it seems to be all the rage. How big of a deficit does it put your team in to just line up with your wide receivers in one spot and have the defense know exactly where everybody's going to be at the snap?
Well, let me ask you, you're a teacher, right?
Yes.
So if it was not, I won't say legal, but if it was ethical for your kids to bring the answers to the test into the class for a test, don't you think most of the kids would do it?
I would like to say yes. A lot of them would forget the answers at home, but yes, for the most part, they would.
Okay, so another thing that motion does is it tells you zone versus man, right? So it gives motion is used in part to give more information to the quarterback pre-snap. Now, when you do motion during the snap, that's putting. I mentioned about the communication issues. Okay, so imagine you have somebody like a Rashid Shaheed that's running 4-3. Olavi's a 4-4 guy. Not that matters. They could both be 4-6s for all we care here, but obviously the lower the number, the quicker you're going to have to react. But my point being is things are already split second. What determines success and failure in the NFL are split second things. Now you're telling me as Shaheed is moving across the formation or Olave or whoever is moving across the formation, I'm having to talk over 60, 70, 80,000 fans saying, hey, shift over, shift over, shift over. Well, by the time that happens, he's already moved 5 yards down, and it's creating movement where you don't want movement. So yeah, I was thinking about this earlier this afternoon. I haven't played a video game in a while, but I remember playing Madden. I would definitely be telling anybody who was a film watcher what I was doing. I would move my guys a lot on run plays, but I wouldn't ever do it on passing plays. And I think that's probably this, but this is like 5-10 years ago that I was doing this. Now I understood motion when I was doing that was creating advantages in the run game. What I didn't know the playbooks well enough to know that if I move the guy here, this is going to create an imbalance in cover 3 or an exploit cover 1. These guys, this is their full-time job. They should know that. I think I have a pretty good idea about that now as opposed to 10 years ago. I think it really comes down to offense coordinators wanting control over every single detail, and they would rather have control over it than say, I'm going to go with 15% uncertainty, and because if I'm uncertain and it backfires, then I look really bad. I just think they're uncomfortable with uncertainty like that. That's my guess.
Okay, but you need the confidence in your plan to allow a part of it to be open to the fact that it might fail.
Yes, but understanding that we talk about floor and ceiling a lot in fantasy. Hey, coming into the year, we thought Rashid Shaheed was all upside. All ceiling, and his floor was here, and his floor was down low, and his ceiling was up high. Well, now we're finding out that he's running shorter routes. Oh, wait, we have an offensive coordinator that's using speed, short, intermediate, and deep. It's with all the change at coordinators. I think I heard on NFL Matchup this over the weekend. There was 2 weeks ago, 16 new offense coordinators and 17 new defensive coordinators. I think is what the count was. At least that's what NFL Matchup said. And so what you hope is when you have that kind of change, each of those 16 teams are hoping the offensive court comes in and it introduces the kind of change that Kubiak has so far.
Yep, I wish the Jets had something a little bit better than what we do now.
Well, you have the guy that just relies on Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers. That's what you have.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about what we have. On the opposite side, though, of the Saints are the teams that have let fantasy managers down offensively. So watching the Commanders play offense it's like that feeling when you pass a Lamborghini on the highway that's doing 60 in the right lane, and you're like, I'm driving a Camry. What are you doing? Right? So I'm watching this Commanders offense that has all these weapons at its disposal, and it's like doing 40 in the right-hand lane. What is going on in Washington, Doug?
Well, my first question to you would be, why are you driving a Camry? But that's neither here nor there.
It's a sensible car that's paid for, Doug. I'm a middle-aged man, my friend. Debt-free.
To be clear, some of Washington's issues are a product of its offensive line.
Hold on a second. Why are you making fun of my Camry? No, we're going back. How dare you, sir? How dare you? I used to drive a minivan. A Camry was an upgrade.
Okay. My bad. Jeez,
I'm going to mute myself and seethe in silence. Sorry. Tell me about Washington, sir.
To be clear, some of Washington's issues are a product of its offensive line and Cliff Kingsbury's lack of confidence in it as a pass protection unit. To that end, Jane Daniels has faced quick pressure on 20% of his dropbacks, despite leading all qualified quarterbacks in the quickest time to throw, 2.3 seconds. Think about that. You have 2.3 seconds to throw, and you're getting pressured 1 out of every 5. And I'm willing to tell you something else here in a second that's going to blow your mind. Well, we'll just get to it. With that said, this has been an extremely conservative offense so far. Here's the part that's going to blow your mind. The Commanders have run a screen pass on 26.4% of their dropbacks, 19 out of 72 dropbacks. How are you facing quick pressure on 2.3 second time to throw? How are you getting pressure 20% of the time when over a quarter of your passes are screens? Well, anyway, Daniel's average depth of target is 4.9 yards. Only Patrick Mahomes, yeah, you heard me right, Patrick Mahomes at 4.7, yeah, 4.7 has a lower mark among regular starting quarterbacks through 2 games. For some context, the lowest ADOT, so average depth of target, among quarterbacks who played at least half of the games last season was Jake Browning at 6.3. I have a chart on the Fantasy Points article. There was Tyrod Taylor, who has barely played. He had a 4.4. I have 4 other quarterbacks: Mahomes, Jay Daniels, Malik Willis, Gardner Minshew, all under 6. So that's telling you we're definitely playing small ball here. While Daniels' ADOT decreased slightly from week 1, which is at 5.2, to week 2, which is 4.7, the first mark, the 5.2 mark, was inflated by the one deep shot he missed. He missed on with Terry McLaurin to begin the opener. I think if you take that out of the equation, we're talking more like 4.5. So we're talking very small ball here. Now, understand Kingsbury's offenses have never been the most aggressive in terms of stretching the field vertically, but Daniels has thrown deep, which is defined as 20 or more yards, only 3 times on 53 attempts. 3 times on 53 attempts. That's a 5.7% rate. By comparison, Kyler Murray, who I think Jane Daniels compares favorably to, his deep throw percentage under Kingsbury was exactly 11.5 and never lower than that in 3 of his 4 seasons together at Arizona. Now I want to put more context, more comparison. Taken one step further, neither Brock Purdy nor Bo Nix is known for their arm strength. Yet both men have attempted, they've averaged 4 deep shots a game, but they've attempted at least 8 or more deep shots so far. What does this all say? His approach through 2 games is borderline ridiculous for a quarterback who threw the ball deep once every 6 attempts on average to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. last year in route to winning the Heisman Trophy at LSU. I would also say it's a comical use of speedsters like McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, and I've been practicing on this one.
Olamide,
that's right. I was Olamide Zaccheaus. Now, understand that the next Randy Moss does not exist on this roster, but Brown and Zaccheaus have proven to be capable field stretchers at the very least. McLaurin's usage is the most baffling. Not only is he the team's most complete receiver, but he's the best vertical receiver. While he is routinely among the top 25 receivers in yards after catch, he's not Deebo Samuel. We don't need him running. I'm not sure if I had the right graphic up before. He's run 4 screens, and I think it was something like this. I think I remember seeing 13 go routes versus 0 comebacks, which makes no sense because you build a comeback off of vertical. Right. So if you're running go routes a lot of times to clear out the defense, you You don't want McLaurin clearing out the defense. You want him being the guy that is benefiting from the clear out.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you're going to send him deep, occasionally send him deep-ish and then have him come back. That's not happening. I think I remember 4 screens versus three slants. Again, does not make sense. I'll give you some more context here. McLaurin has consistently been around the 50% mark in combined medium, which is 10 to 19-yard targets, and deep, which I've already established 20+. He's consistently been around above or around the 50% mark throughout his career. He's at 33.4% through 2 games. So he's 1 out of every 6 routes. There's 17%, which is about a little over 16%. So whereas he's usually getting his targets, the high value targets are usually the intermediate. The high value targets are the deep shots, but the deep shots are lower percentage completions. Right. You want deep intermediate. So anyway, 33.4% is way too low. Thankfully, there is room to believe it's going to get. There is reason to believe it's going to get better. Again, I'm going to refer to the article. Ryan Fowler from the Draft Network had a tweet that spoke about his time to throw. In week 2, he mentioned that Daniels completed all 5 of his vertical shots for 104 yards. Okay, that wasn't happening last week, and most of those vertical shots, unfortunately, were to Zach Ertz, which were just under the 20-yard mark. So there was hope after watching the first game and watching the second game. There is hope that things are getting better. Now, we ask ourselves as fantasy managers, or just interested football observers, is Kingsbury playing the long game here, or in setting up future opponents, or just taking it slow for the sake of Daniel's development? I want to believe it's that second one. However, we probably cannot expect rational thinking from the same man who refuses to move his ex-receiver off the left outside spot of the formation, which he's doing with McLaurin, just like he did with DeAndre Hopkins. But as I noted in the tweet, there's small signs of progress. Again, another reason why I'm hopeful. With the running game experiencing the success it did in week 2, there should be more and likely more successful opportunities for Daniels and McLaurin in the intermediate and deep passing game moving forward.
All right. I don't know how optimistic I am. I get a little bit nervous when I see the same things happening in the first 2 weeks. And I get maybe you're trying to like just slowly develop, Jaden, but I feel sometimes like if you don't give them the full menu, then you're actually kind of hindering their development.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, routes are built off a succession of routes, right? You call plays in a certain order to set up the defense for what is coming next. So if you're just running go routes, there's no surprise there, right? Like you have to change it up every once in a while. I don't know. Variety is the spice of life.
Oh,
I don't know. Somebody said that once.
Breaking news.
All right, sir. Now, I know that Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson are getting pretty much all of the buzz in Minnesota. But the real star is that defense, Doug. And Brian Flores was considered a malcontent. But is he secretly a genius?
Well, just like your decision to drive a Camry, JJ.
Go on.
A lot of us saw the video on Twitter about Brock Purdy going up to Flores after the game and saying your scheme is crazy. And I thought that was a great way to lead off this part because, let me go over some of the detail here. Flores won over critics last season with his ability to overcome poor personnel. Wow. The 2023 Vikings had some good players, Danielle Hunter and Josh Metellus among them. IDP alert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they had no business finishing even middle of the pack in total defense. So how did Flores pull it off? Well, no team rushed 3 or 6 or more as often as Minnesota last year, which is a highly unusual dichotomy. blitzing defenses, this is common sense, but I'm going to explain it anyway. Blitzing defenses tend to operate that way because they trust their corners to work on an island. Conservative defenses tend to operate that way because they do not trust their corners or believe enough in their four-man pass rush to consistently apply pressure on the quarterback. Many defense coordinators say that they focus on late deception, which is giving the defense one look, basically going maybe from too high to single high or single high to too high. Safeties, obviously. Flores' unit did all of this exceedingly well. He also did a great job of changing up who was blitzing down in and down out. So what's he doing this year? Now, this was a tweet from the Athletics' Alec Lewis. And bear with me, or JJ, you can tell me if I'm explaining this well enough here. Minnesota snaps last season with a four-man pass rush, 203 total. That was by easily the least in the NFL. Pressure rate in 2023 with four-man pass rush, 28.9%. That was 27th in the NFL. This year, snaps with a four-man pass rush, 54. So already we're a quarter of the way to last year's total through 2 games. Okay. Snaps in 2024 with four-man pass rush, 54. That's 12th, which is about, middle of the road. Pressure rate in 2024 with a four-man pass rush, 44.4%, which is second in the league. Okay, so I'm going to repeat myself. Through 2 games, the Vikings are on pace to exceed last year's total four-man rushes sometime in Week 9, which is their 8th game. What changed? Well, two of the answers are rather obvious. They played the Giants in Week 1, which means that their defense didn't need to go crazy with the blitz. The other one is small sample size can be misleading, and we've heard that plenty of over. We hear that about every week, especially early every fantasy football season. So, my thoughts: the real answer is most likely Forrest has no intention to relive 2023. A few defensive coordinators blitz just to blitz. They sought to improve their pass rush in the offseason, and it's bearing fruit. The Vikings have little reason to care about the number of rushers if it can consistently get pressure with 4 while playing 7 in coverage, which is really the goal of every defense nowadays. They want to rush 4, get pressure with 4, and play 7 in coverage because it gives them the numbers advantage. By you can never have more than 5 eligible receivers going out of pattern. So if you have 7 men in coverage, theoretically it should make it fairly difficult. So what does it all mean? Well, Minnesota's incoming opponents, Houston, Green Bay, and the Jets. So it means that we should probably expect C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, if he's ready by then, which it sounds like he might, and Aaron Rodgers on a short week, no less. They struggle more than we might expect in the weeks that they face the Vikings.
So that's not good for the Jets. That's what you're trying to say. And that Flores is kind of a genius? Or is he just, what do you think? Is he just going to go back to the 3 and rushing 6 or more? Or do you think he's found a new home with 4?
So, yeah, there are a few things. So Jonathan Grenard has adequately replaced Danielle Hunter. I mean, that was basically a 1-for-1. That was, I mean, it wasn't a trade, but that was, basically, half a dozen, 6 of one, half dozen of the other, right? That I don't want to say it's quite like that, but it was kind of like that.
Okay.
Grenard only has the 1 sack, but the fact that I think he has 12 pressures through 2 games, so that's opening things up for Patrick Jones and Andrew Van Ginkel, who have a combined 6 sacks. To answer your question, there's no reason to change until. You're not probably going to change just for change's sake. Of course, you're going to continue alternating defenses. Last year, I remember the article I did this summer. I believe it was In the Zone. It was the title of it for FF Today. Vikings by far led the league in cover 0, which was you're basically singling up everybody and you're rushing 6 or 7, depending on what the call is. If you can get by with 4, there's no reason to send 6 or 7. So will he do it because he's aggressive like that? He'll do it on occasion because they want it. You don't outside of Gus Bradley with the Colts, who I think runs cover 3 probably, I don't know, an ungodly amount of times. You don't see a lot of coordinators that are going to say we're cover 3, and then we'll vary off of that once every 10 snaps. So yeah, they will keep changing things up just because that's what they're supposed to do. But is he a genius? I think he's shown that he's overcome personnel before. Now that the personnel is getting better, now he can be, rather than just being Mr. Aggression or Mr. Laid Back, and now he can change things up with the 7 that he has in coverage. So part of it is better personnel. Part of it is he's that sharp of a defensive mind, and he really always has been. It's looking better now, especially that he did such a great job of slowing down the 49ers offense.
Yeah, and as you get older and more experienced, you make better decisions. You learn how to tweak. You learn how to adjust. And you make great decisions like buying a Camry, Doug. And it is football season. And that means a trip to see your favorite team on the road, right? Well, with Expedia, you get the best prices when traveling. And we are thrilled for our new partnership. Need a flight to Denver, rent a car in Miami, or hotel in San Francisco? Go to idpplus.com/Expedia and build the best package to travel to the big game. Now, Doug, after he posted 3 for 38 in week 1, I was slightly intrigued by Quentin Johnston. Then he posts 5 for 51 with 2 touchdowns. And to quote all 4 non-blondes, I said, hey, what's going on?
25 years and my life is still the same.
Praying for a revolution, my brother.
Praying for a revolution.
Every day.
Hey, and let's I have nothing against Camry. That's a smart, responsible choice. So
shut up. Tell me about Quentin Johnston, you jerk.
All right. Head coach Jim Harbaugh and offense coordinator Greg Roman insisted that they were excited about Johnston's future this offseason after he experienced one of the more, shall we say, challenging seasons by a rookie receiver in recent memory. So as we tend to be skeptical as a fantasy audience, right? Because coach speak is right 30% of the time. I don't know. There's actually a Twitter account, the Coach Speak Index, right now.
I do love that account.
Yeah. So you can consult that account for if you want to see how much we can trust these guys when they say what they say. Anyway, perhaps fantasy managers thought Harbaugh was living a bit in the past, remembering what Johnston did to his Michigan defense during the 2022 college football playoff semifinal loss to TCU. That, for those of you that don't remember, 6 catches, 163 yards, and a touchdown. That one touchdown went for, I want to say, 75 yards. It's I have a clip on it. I have a clip of it in the article if you want to relive that moment, Horned Frog fans, or if you just hate Michigan. Now, some things were obvious to me during my film study of Johnston's college tape before the 2023 draft that shouldn't have been obvious to the previous regime. In his draft profile, I stated his best scheme fit was going to be an offense that was willing to use him regularly on high probability run after catch routes, such as screens, crossers, and hooks or hitches. As a rookie, Johnston ran 122 go routes, which accounted for nearly 20% of his routes and almost twice as much as any other route, which his second most run route was a 69 route hitch routes. Now, take 1 week for what it is, but in week 2, Johnston ran twice as many hitches as he did any other route and led the Chargers in end zone targets, which makes a lot of sense for a guy that's either 6'3" or 6'4" and has a 40.5-inch vertical. Now, granted, he didn't need that freakish athleticism on either one of those catches. He had the diving catch, which was on a kind of a go route. Again, you want to vary these things up. Football is not played static, right? You want to change up. If you're the defense, you want to change up with your looks. If you're a receiver, you want to run 6-7 different routes at the very least, because you don't ever want the defense to get a beat on you. So he had the go route for touchdown where it was a nice diving catch, but that's a catch that he didn't need his freakish athleticism for. And then the other one was Carolina blew coverage in the right corner of the end zone. So, but my bigger point is this. a good coach should allow a player to do what he's good at to build his confidence before asking him to do everything else. And that seems to be the case here for Johnston. Now, I'm going to a little bit of pause here. His upcoming schedule is quite daunting. He's likely to see. We don't believe there might be shadow corners, but that rarely. That's not 100% thing. That's more like a 60% thing, and if it's even that. But my point is, probably more than half the snaps this over these next few games. He's going to see a lot of Joey Porter in week 3. Joey Porter's, I don't know what his grades are right now, but he's receivers are not having much success against him so far. Let's put it that way. So that's this upcoming week. Trent McDuffie in week 4 with the Chiefs. Then the Chargers going to bye, and then it's Patrick Surtain second in week 6. With that said, defenses are going to need to account for Johnston moving forward, which is going to help everybody else in the offense. So once maybe we get Josh Palmer healthy again, Ladd McConkey, now that the Chargers wide receiving core that we thought was subpar, now we have somebody who's attracting a bunch of attention. And if you give too much attention to him, we got Ladd McConkey in the short and intermediate. We got Josh Palmer deep. We can beat you in with either any of those 3 receivers. And speaking of Palmer, the one factor that we can't account for from week 2 was Palmer playing only half the snaps that he did in week 1 because he was listed as questionable with a knee injury. So who knows how much his reduction in snaps was a fed into Johnston's big day, and how much of it was Carolina. And that's another thing about football. For every question that there is out there, there's usually 3 or 4 answers. It's rarely ever one answer. And sometimes it's more than 3 or 4 answers. Anyway, the bad news for fantasy managers is we're probably going to have to wait another week to find out if Johnston can build on that the best performance of his career. The good news is, unlike last season, that we already know he has it within himself to do more than he did as a rookie. And the other thing we know, and this is great news, what we do know is that he impressed Justin Herbert and the coaching staff enough for him to handle 38.5% of his team's first read and design targets so far. And if you're wanting, if that number sounds vaguely familiar, because I had Jameson Williams in week 1 had 42.5% of the team's first read and design targets. So if you like what Jameson Williams did in week 1 and you like what Quentin Johnston did in week 2, there might be something to this whole first read and design targets thing.
Yeah, that's one of the more interesting statistics that I saw on Fantasy Points that has sort of been intriguing to me and eye-opening. I think it's very illustrative of how a defense is, how an offense is designed.
I agree.
All right, sir. Well, now that covers everything you covered in your article, but we did have a little bit of a discussion about a tweet that you saw. Now, I am firmly a part of Team No Kickers. But this season has me questioning my membership. John Breach wrote an interesting article over at CBS Sports about kicking this season. After 2 weeks, kickers have combined to hit 35 of 39 field goals from 50 yards or longer. 89.7% is the highest rate ever through 2 weeks of a season. And not only, Doug, are the long kick setting records, but in week 2, we had 73 field goals, which is the single week record of all time. Now, Doug, I know the ladies love the long ball, but what in the barefoot kicker is going on in the NFL?
There are several thoughts that go through my mind, and I wish I had the tweet and the information in front of me, but we are seeing easily one of the worst passing seasons, at least the start to the season. We're seeing some of the worst passing numbers that we've seen in years, if not decades. Okay, why does that matter? Anything here? It means that drives are more likely to bog down at some point. I think that's so. I don't know. I would like to know how many short range field goals we're getting versus long range field goals. But my point is, if the offense isn't doing if the offense is short circuiting, well, of course we're going to see more field goals. Now the other side of that is what you said, 35 of 39 from 50 yards. Okay. There was a time not too long ago that if you had a kicker hitting 50, you were feeling pretty good about yourself.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I would love to make a snap comparison, but to maybe like baseball or something. But now it's basically the line has been moved back. If all you can do is hit a 50-yard field goal, you may not have a job next week. I mean, that almost has to be part of your resume now as a kicker. And I don't know what to attribute it to. We're not going to talk about kicker mechanics and whatnot here, but I guess it makes sense to a point. If we're getting to a point where quarterbacks are the standard now is 68 to 70% completion percentage. I mean, who's to say that the technology and the practice and whatnot has gotten to a point where the fundamentals have gotten to a point where 50 should be the expectation, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, like, so 35 of 39, right? So there's been 4 misses.
Yeah.
2 of those have been from Justin Tucker.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. Apparently he's really struggled from 50 here lately, if I recall.
He has. Now under 50, he's like an old time kicker, right? Do you remember the barefoot kickers who would come out?
Oh God, yeah.
Or they realized you could just put laces on the side of a shoe.
Yeah, I was trying to think when you were starting to read this. I was trying to think. I remember the one from the Rams in the 80s. I want to say it was Langsford, but I'm not. I might be thinking of their punter at the time. But yeah, one of my first memories of football, one of my first real memories of watching football was the Rams barefooted kicker. Yeah. So yeah.
But I don't know. Like it is impressive, and I wonder if offenses are almost choosing the safe route more often because you can get an automatic 3 from 55 now. Where before, like it was a crapshoot. Anything over 45, you were like, oh, who knows if they'll do it? But it's a different NFL, so I think I have to adjust a little bit in leagues like Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, where kickers are now putting up a lot more points than they used to.
Well, a part of it. So another thought I just had too was you take, for example, we've had already this year, we had, and I'm coming up short on the Commanders kicker, new kicker. Austin Seibert.
Okay, that was in close. Go ahead.
I'm glad you said because that helped.
Yes, thank you. I picked the most popular letter. Go on.
But yeah, when you're playing, so we were talking about conservative offense with Kingsbury. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, now they haven't built the trust in him. Obviously, just bringing him in, but that Washington is a great illustration because conservative offense, passing game not going where it should go, drives probably bogging down around the 30-yard line or whatnot, maybe 25, whatever. Because I don't think he had too many 50-yard field goals in against the Giants. But teams do know that it's better to put up 3 than not put up anything at all, obviously. But the reason I brought this up was because we had 7 field goals from Seibert in week 2. We had 6 field goals from Chris Boswell in week 1. And I think at least 2 or 3 of those were from 50 yards. But if no team has probably played more conservatively so far than the Steelers have.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why if you're going to rush out and get a kicker, you might want to rush out and get Chris Boswell, because I don't think that Arthur Smith has already told us he's conservative from the last few years in Atlanta and now through 2 weeks here. He wants to limit mistakes, and I'd be willing to bet that Mike Tomlin has told him at some point, "Hey, we're playing to our defense." So again, if you're trusting your great defense, then you may only need 4 or 5 field goals to win. So, 2 weeks, the passing numbers are going to improve, and I would love to spend another 5 or 10 minutes talking about. I saw a tweet here. I want to forgetting who it was from. Oh yeah, it's from Brady, Tom Brady. But he mentioned how when I went to college, college football used to be about going to programs. Now I'm playing for the team. When I went to Michigan, I was developed there for 5 years. And I had to work my way from, I think he said, 7th string to eventually 1st string. When I went to the Patriots, I had to work my way from 3rd string, make the team, and then I think he started seeing playing time as, I believe it was his 2nd year. I believe I'm kind of fuzzy on that right now. I don't know why I'm fuzzy on that right now, but he had time to adjust to both levels, and I've said this for years. The quarterbacking is getting worse, and one of the things that he attributed to what we're seeing right now is the dumbing down of offenses, because that's what's happening at the college level. We're having to dumb down the offenses for quarterbacks at college level, and now we're dumbing it down because nobody has time to develop, right?
Yeah. And
that was supposed to go away with the new rookie wage scale. I shouldn't say new, with the rookie wage scale, when Sam Bradford was making, $40 or $50 million. I don't know. But when he was getting paid all that money, and that was one of the momentum shifts to get a rookie wage scale in there. But you think about how many quick screens, like the fire, one step, boom, out to the left, and let the receiver. It's a good idea, like San Francisco does. It's a good idea to let your receivers do work. What you don't want is your receivers to do all the work. And I think that's where we're getting to in the league nowadays. Is quarterbacks are getting paid a lot of money to be less than what they were 10 years ago. So I think this all, I don't want to say this directly relates to what we're talking about with kickers, but the defenses are ahead of the offenses, and I don't think there's any reason to expect that to change over the next week or two. It might be until midseason, and I'm not sure. We saw it all last year where offensive numbers were down,
right?
And it's going to take somebody that's using the cheat codes like we talked about with the Saints. It's going to take somebody like that. That's going to need to be more prevalent before we start seeing better offensive numbers moving forward.
All right. Well, that's as good as a place as any to end, and it is time to say goodbye. Let people know where they can find us, and any final thoughts, Doug?
Yeah. About the only thing I have to update you on, I have my FF Today article will be coming out. It'll be hitting the site Friday morning, more than likely Friday morning, Friday afternoon. And I'll be working on that tonight. I think the way I'm going with that is basically what we were talking about with at the top of the show. But, all these injuries. How are you recovering? What are we doing? What are we doing to overcome all these injuries? So it's weird to be here on a Wednesday. I'm usually racking my mind, usually trying to be 2,000 or 3,000 words into my article at this point. In previous years, now I'm just going to be starting my article on a Wednesday night as opposed to be trying to finish it. So, but that's where I'm leaning right now. And I'm sure when we get done with it, it'll be 3,000 or 4,000 words of talking about how we're going to overcome Cooper Kupp and why did Kenneth Walker have to get hurt after 1 week, and
why did Jake Ferguson have to get hurt, and what? Too much.
So
Too much. All right. Well, I'm at JJ Wenner on X. Thank you for taking the time to watch us, to listen in. Thank you to Doug, of course, for all of his work. Make sure you're checking out his content at Fantasy Points and FF Today. And you can catch me tomorrow night on the Rider Dynasty podcast, where we're discussing rookies and draft prospects. And remember, when in doubt, go all out. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.